don't remember ever, as good as Phil Jackson was, I don't ever remember in my life saying, yeah, that team won because of the coach. Didn't we think Philadelphia had 2 stars? I mean, Popovich lost a star player, Kawhi, to injury. It derailed the season. Brad Stevens lost Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were plus 29 against Philadelphia in the last 2 minutes of halves. That tends to be coaching. Those are designed plays out of timeouts. You know, right before a half, right before the end of the game, you call a timeout. You set up Al Horford. You set up whoever you set up. I just don't remember in my life ever talking about a series and talking about a coach being the reason they won in my life.
I love Brad Stevens. Earlier in the show, I said that he's going to keep the Celtics in the series against LeBron. I've got to stop short, though, about best coach in the NBA. Colin, this is a guy who's 19-21 in the playoffs in his career. For now, just for now, I've still got to go with Popovich as the best coach of the year, as the best coach in the NBA. But I do have to say about Stevens, this is a guy who, 15 years ago was an Eli Lilly marketing rep, in the pharmaceutical industry, and here he is bypassing. He cut the line, is why I think these coaches have it out for him. He didn't pay his dues. He was never an assistant in the NBA. I get a lot of heat being on TV here. Hey, Jason, you didn't work in small markets. You didn't work your way up. How did you get there? Listen, some guys do things and go an unconventional route. Brad Stevens went to Butler. Butler got them to the national title game twice, and here he is, one of the best coaches.
He also got a 6-year contract. Nobody gets 6-year contracts. Yeah. Resentment.
Did you just compare yourself to Brad?
I did not. Come on, why would I do that, Broussard?
No, look, Brad Stevens is a great coach, obviously, but no, I'm with you. I have to go with Popovich with the rings. And Colin, I have thought a lot of times that a coach got something done. Popovich, for instance, we've seen time and time again where he sat players or players were out and they had a great game and beat some of the top players. And even when this year, Kawhi Leonard out essentially the whole year, and they were in the running for 3rd place in the West. Quinn Snyder, their one really good offensive player was a rookie, and they battled. They got, 4th seed, 5th seed in the West. And Tom Thibodeau, when he had Derrick Rose, and then even when Derrick Rose got hurt, they beat the Nets one year. Nate Robinson was their big-time player, and the Nets had Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, So we've seen coaches maximize good talent, and some of those coaches haven't been as good with superstar talent. Thibodeau hasn't been as good in Minnesota. Now you got a Karl Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Wiggins. I want to see Stevens with stars, real superstars for a long haul, not just Kyrie for 2/3 of the season, and then he'll have the whole shebang. He can coach marginal talent, and he can maximize star talent.
Yeah. For once, we agree.
For once, Kenyon.
We agree. I'll leave it at that. No, man. Greg Popovich is a great coach. But Brad Stevens has done an excellent job, I'm saying, with the talent that he has there, moving forward. So we'll see. But he's done what people didn't expect him to do, I'm saying, with Kyrie being out now. He never had a chance to coach Hayward, I'm saying, this season. It ended early. But no, I'm saying, with Kyrie not being there, showed a lot. I'm saying, for him having to plug Rozier and instilling the confidence in him, he can go out and do the same things that Kyrie was doing. And him going out and doing it. But just putting his guys in situations to be successful. Coming out of timeouts, like you stated, he's excellent.
Excellent.
And then I think that comes from his college background, having to script plays up
for Butler
with low time and things like that to get some national championship games and all that. So that experience helped him. Oh, well, he never coached in the NBA, assists and all that stuff. He's a good basketball coach. That all should matter.
The one thing that when I look at a coach, what makes a great coach is a big part of it is, do you get the best Kenyon Martin that Kenyon Martin can be?
Yeah.
Your best coach. Listen, man, Isaiah Thomas has been a marginal NBA player. He got MVP votes, okay, with Brad Stevens. Jay Crowder's kind of a bounce-around guy. Yeah. When he was with Boston, I was like, he's a vital part of their success. He went to Cleveland and LeBron, and it didn't work. Isaiah Thomas went to LeBron and it didn't work.
Don't forget Avery Bradley as well. Remember last year in the playoffs?
Avery Bradley went to a team in Detroit which wanted to use him more, and his numbers went down. Yeah. The one thing Stevens does, Jason Tatum shouldn't be this good this early. There's just no way. Jaylen Brown could not shoot out of college. 2 years later, he's almost a 40%. Yeah. So to me, coaching's a lot of things. Yeah. But one of them is, do I take a player, and I thought Phil Jackson was great at this. Rick Fox was his best under Phil. You could play for 6 teams, but I think that's where Brad's really special. I'm actually surprised that Chris Paul is not more well-liked universally.
Doesn't shock me at all. I've never met Chris Paul, never interviewed him, but I'm telling you, this is the guy who was the greatest player in Clippers history. We could argue that, right? Spent 6 years there. One of the best players in Clippers franchise history. His team hated him. I'll never forget the Bill Plaschke column in the LA Times this year after Chris Paul tried to go to the locker room. Remember the Houston Clippers fight? And Austin Rivers and Chris Paul did not get along. Doc Rivers and Chris Paul did not get along. DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, on down the line. Like, Chris Paul, for as good as he was not loved in Los Angeles with the Clippers. Kenyon, I can't wait to hear the stories from that locker room.
Listen, he made a lot of guys rich.
Yeah, definitely.
He's not he plays defense, so he's not one of these guys that gives you half a game.
Oh,
And the other thing is, New Orleans, Clippers, Houston, he set regular season records, so he wins. Like, aren't you a little bit surprised?
I mean, I'm not, because I've heard a lot of what Kenya said. I mean, one thing Kenya didn't say that I've heard a lot of is he's just hard on teammates, too. He's always yapping, telling guys what to do, directing them. Yeah. And he doesn't really take the blame himself, even when he has deserved it.
That's a true leader.
He won't take it himself. So, look, my interactions with Chris have been fine, but everything Kenya said, I had heard, and I'm not surprised.
Let me ask you one thing. Like, a lot of guys come into this league, and I'm not knocking players because you guys come into the league at 21, 22, but you want to make some money, find some cute girls, and have a good time, and get a shoe deal, and I'm okay with that. And then when you get older, you want to win. You know, a lot of guys come in, then they second contract, third contract, you want rings and titles. I would think Chris Paul does stuff that other players, a lot of them, don't want to do. He deals with management. He deals with coaches. He coaches on the floor. A lot of guys come into this league, they want to make money. They want to get a shoe deal. They want to have fun. Like, he's doing a lot of the stuff other guys don't want to do, isn't he?
Not necessarily. He just put himself in a situation to do those things. You know, it's just like opportunities there for everybody to do the stuff that he does. But it's just who wants, like you said, who wants to do it, who doesn't, what fits certain guys, what doesn't fit certain guys. But no, like, he's a hell of a basketball player. He goes out and he does his job well. Take nothing away from his career. He's been a great basketball player. But like you said, there's other things that rub people the wrong way.
Let me ask you, he's the president of the Players Association.
Yes.
How does that land for players?
I don't hold too much weight, but historically, it's not a sexy job, a job that guys who so-called quote-unquote superstars would want. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot to do with a lot of nonsense, basically, like paperwork and phone calls, emails all the time. Like, who wants to deal with that? That normally goes for guys who had decent careers.
Yeah.
Decent careers, but you know what I'm saying, that's for them to do, so to speak.
You know, we know who he's tight with, right? LeBron James, his banana boat friend. And LeBron is very demanding of teammates. We know that. That's well documented. The one difference is LeBron has carried inferior teams to the finals. The Cavs in, I believe, 2008. Chris Paul, can you be that demanding when you're not coming through and delivering in the playoffs? I just wonder if that just wears on people, on DeAndre Jordan, on Blake Griffin.
You get tired of, like, when you're in the game situations and it's always like of course, you expect your coach to be that, and you expect your point guard to be vocal, but when it's too much all the time, every game, like, it starts to become like a nagging aunt or your grandmother or something. And you want to just, man, shut up. You know what I'm saying? But in the heat of the moment, you can't do that. So then it just, over time, year in, year out, it's the same thing. Year in, year out, it's the same thing. You know, so for some people, by the time the playoffs start, you like...
You don't hear it.
This guy.
And I think...
Then you start losing, in this case...
And he's going to blame you.
He's
not taking the blame.
Not at all. I'm saying, so that just rubs some guys the wrong way. Then you go in the coach's office during the playoffs, and then you close the door behind you. Now you're like, what's going on in there? You know what I'm saying? So, like, what y'all in there talking about that don't include us? Like, we losing together. Like, what y'all in there talking about? You know what I'm saying? So then all the whispers start, and it leads to speculation, like I said earlier, man.
And I think, as Kenya said, there's a difference between respecting him for his game. Like, he's got that, obviously, and liking playing with him. And I think Kenya would say he's not speaking for every single player in the league. You know, I know when he played in New Orleans, he got along with Tyson Chandler. And, you know, he has had guys he's gotten along with, but all the things, the chirping, the attitude, the yelling, the politics, I've heard a lot of that.